The Democrats, no longer an American party. Let's check it out. Welcome to Rob Schmitt Tonight. The behavior from the Democrat Party that we witnessed at Tuesday night's State of the Union really did help to explain the results of a recent Gallup poll that shows the absolute collapse of American pride from American Democrat voters. Down from 80% proud of this country, proud to be an American in 2015, to just 36% in 2025. Plummeting 44%, 44 points in 10 years. Most Democrat voters now essentially hate their country. Think about that. As Trump spoke on Tuesday night, we watched Democrat politicians refuse to applaud for some very basic fundamental American ideals, most refusing to stand for World War II heroes that were 100 years old. All refusing to support the U.S. government prioritizing American citizens over illegal immigrants, a question that would have been so simple 15 years ago in this country. Everyone would have stood. It wouldn't have been a question you had to ask. The Democrats have made it quite clear that they are no longer an American party. It is a globalist party. It is a globalist revolution inside the party, and that's what most of their voters want too. A charge led by coastal liberals who mock nationalism, who mock American pride. Embarrassed by the country that has given them everything, they sound like this.
I was really disturbed. I saw, dozens and dozens of pickup trucks with, explicatives against Joe Biden. In some cases, just dozens of American flags, which, is also just disturbing.
When I drive into a neighborhood and there are flags, American flags, everywhere, I feel threatened.
Our country isn't so lovable right now. In the current climate, declaring love for our country is like an abused spouse professing love for their abuser.
Hang out in New York, Los Angeles, California. You hear a lot of people like this. This is how they think. And this mentality is how we've gotten such toxicity into our bloodstream. This is how politicians like Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib and Zoran Mamdani have gotten into power. Liberals embarrassed by this country, voting for the people that can do the most damage to it. Ilhan Omar openly says she's fighting for Somalia. She said that on stage to her supporters. She's fighting for another country. That used to be criminal. The United States no longer has the spine for those kinds of fights anymore, or to mandate any of those kinds of rules any longer. We know that. Our national fabric is being erased. America is being balkanized, broken up into smaller factions that share none of the same core ideals. The mentality and the Democrat Party's capitulation to it are destroying this country, and we can all feel it. We can all feel it. A party that destroyed our country's border and our sovereignty for 4 years is not an American party. It is a globalist party, and they're proud of that. The goal of globalism is to spread all the wealth of the world, and most of that wealth is here. So what does that mean for you? That means you'll become poorer, your quality of life will decrease, so that we can prop up the billions around the world who don't live as well as we do, all to appease their guilt. They condition Americans to accept this through guilt, convincing us that our quality of life is criminal. The way we live so well is a sin.
Their systemic racism is a stain on our nation's soul.
Police murder of unarmed black men has been an American way of death across centuries.
A race war that would ultimately create a whites-only homeland in the United States.
You're anti-woman, you're anti-abortion, and basically you're anti-American.
As the country's gotten better and stronger and more equal, the rhetoric towards the country has gotten worse and worse and worse. Is there any question this is a better country than it was 50 or 75 years ago? There's no question whatsoever. But the way that it's been talked about by Democrats and by the American left has gotten dramatically worse in recent years. Think about how twisted that is. 75 years ago, when we actually had problems and we actually had things to complain about, there was pride. Today, there's not. And those kind of talking points are mainstream Democrat talking points these days, just slamming this country, as negative as they can possibly be about such a wonderful thing that we have created here, the most prosperous, virtuous, equitable place in the world. They talk about it like it's hell on earth. Gavin Newsom has a good shot at being our next president. Here's how he talks about the state that he's running into the ground and the country that he wants to control next.
I begin the book talking about how, we were born of genocide in California. I try to paint, a picture that is about California. It's about America.
Genocide. In your state, and if your state and nation are born of genocide, what wouldn't you be willing to do to appease that guilt and to change that? And once they convince you that where you're from is born of genocide and that this is a terrible place and that it's built on sin, you'll vote to destroy it. And Democrats have already convinced the majority of their base to do just that. And that's why they're voting the way that they do. So we get an open border. And we get illegals driving the wrong way down major highways in 20,000-pound tractor trailers. We get mayors who want to destroy their own police departments and defend the people who attack the cops. This is what it all earns. We get an uglier, dirtier, less safe version of our country to appease the guilt of Democrat voters who've been convinced and conditioned to believe that there is virtue in destroying their own society. And that's what we saw on Tuesday night, and that's what's indicated in that Gallup poll that now indicates that only 36% of Democrats in this country are proud to be American. That is a really, really, really scary thing. Not good for the future of this country at all. A big threat. Alex Marlow, the editor-in-chief of Breitbart, joins us now. That polling, it explains a lot, doesn't it, about the way that this country is being treated by half the country.
Yeah, Rob, that was such an important monologue. I hope people share it with people in their lives who are not conservatives, because do you want to live in a country that singles itself out for hatred, as if we're the only illegitimate country on earth aside from maybe Israel? That's how the left talks about us. And I got to say, it's very refreshing to hear you say that, because I've been saying this for about a decade. I grew up in Los Angeles. I live in California. I'm aware the left hates this country. And when I would say it, people would look at me like I'm sort of a radical or crazy, but people get it now. If you look at that polling, Republicans, 90+% of the country are proud to be 90+% of Republicans proud to be Americans. That's consistent. That's the way we've always been. And it's the left that is just rapidly started hating this place. You got to put a lot of blame on Obama, starting with his apology tour, acting like we never live up to our founding principles. But wait a minute, we hate the founding fathers because they're a bunch of straight white males, so we can't like them as well. We were all founded on slavery and genocide and horrible things, not on life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness and freedom. All of that stuff is such a bummer, Rob, and that's where the opportunity comes in. We have a chance to run up the score now because we're fun. Trump was honoring war veterans, sports stars. He is fun. And the left is just sitting there scolding and yelling KKK, celebrating trans, celebrating furries. It's so absurd. That's why we should wipe the floor with them electorally.
I love the optimism in that. I wanted to talk about this because the president informed Americans on Tuesday night that his presidency has ushered in the most dramatic drop in murder in American history. And naturally, the media hates a story like that, so they all fact-checked it. CBS found that the claim is actually true. You can see in the last line of that tweet put on X. What beautiful irony, Alex, that our racist president is going to end up saving more black lives than any other president in history.
It's always been the case. I just had a long conversation with Tom Homan that'll appear in my podcast soon, where he talks about how he is saving brown people with his border policies because they get killed in the humanitarian strife that comes from letting the cartels run our border, which is the way things were done under Barack Obama. It's just fundamental stuff. And I just feel like a lot of people have not been reached with these ideas. That's why Trump is really keeping at those 80-20 issues, 90-10 issues, voter IDs, money for child in Trump accounts. We're not going to have AI data centers that are going to jack up your electricity bills, no insider trading for members of Congress. This is all stuff most Americans like, and we like our war heroes and our sports stars. He knows that, and hopefully people get the message.
Do you know when did the shift occur? When did the Democrat Party and the larger left in this country change from being a patriotic country that wanted what's best for it to obviously what they are now. And I think it's a shift from when they went from being a nationalist party to being a globalist party. And the globalist ideals are not in our best interest.
Yeah, I feel like the 2000 election broke a lot of people's brains. And then when Obama came in, he had this historic opportunity to be a unifying figure, and yet he would take every single opportunity to divide. I always cite the Trayvon Martin example, where he was asked about the Trayvon Martin death, which was with George Zimmerman, who was a white guy, but he's really a Hispanic guy. The media treated it like it was a hate crime, and it wasn't at all remotely. And Obama could have really tamped that down. Instead, he jacked up the racial tension by saying Trayvon would have looked like my son. And he was the guy who I thought gave the green light to the left to just use hatred for this country as a weapon. And so I really fault him more than anyone else, but he's certainly not alone.
It's good perspective. Alex Marlow, good to see you. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Rob.
And perhaps most importantly, I'm asking you to approve the Save America Act. The cheating is rampant in our elections. It's rampant. It's very simple. All voters must show voter ID.
State of the Union, the president making his latest push for Congress to pass the SAVE Act on Tuesday night, requiring voter ID and proof of citizenship to vote. More than 80% of the people in this country want this idea, but the Republican Senate is going to blow it. The Majority Leader Thune declaring there is no way that Senate Republicans will be unified to pass the SAVE Act via what's called the talking filibuster, where they have to continually talk, and then once they stop, then you get a chance to vote. So they're going to do it the old-fashioned way, and it's just going to be dead. At least 4 Republicans stand in the way of invoking the talking filibuster to get this passed. They're faces that you probably recognize: Tom Tillis, John Curtis, Mitch McConnell, Lisa Murkowski. Attorney General for the state of Texas, Ken Paxton, is running for Senate in his state, and he faces a primary next Tuesday. He joins us now. The Republican Senate, Ken, is a feckless chamber a lot of the time. I'm hoping that you want to go in there and help change that, right?
Look, absolutely. The SAVE Act is so important. Citizenship, it's such a basic requirement to be in this country, let alone vote. And we have 4 Republicans in the Senate that can't get behind that and help us pass this. It's ridiculous. It's hard to believe. And it's just shocking that these are actually Republicans.
Well, yeah, what is it with, I mean, why do you think, I mean, Thune has this moment, you can do it, you can push it through, and the left is freaking out over it. I mean, what is the calculation that he determines that says, you know what, this isn't worth it?
I don't get it. I mean, honestly, this is about saving our country from elections that are filled with fraud, and we have that. We have that in every state. We've been fighting it in my state. I know it exists, and I know that I fought it since I've been Attorney General, so I know it's a reality. Mail-in ballot fraud. And fortunately, in Texas, we can vote. We are required to have a photo ID, but in half the states, they're not required to even have a photo ID. It's ridiculous. You have to have a photo ID to do everything in this country. But for something like voting, which is sacrosanct to our democracy and our republic, you don't have to show your photo ID. It's insane.
And the mail-in is really where, I mean, when you look at the 2020 election and Joe Biden just blowing away even Barack Obama without even campaigning, you can't tell me that there's not something weird going on with mail-in voting. Washington Post reporting that there are pro-Trump activists in coordination with the White House that are circulating a 17-page draft of an executive order that claims that China interfered in the 2020 election, claims there's proof of that, which would unlock powers for the president to require ID and ban frivolous mail-in ballots. This was kind of the backup plan that he has been talking about. He didn't seem too worried about the SAVE Act because he said there was another way that he could get this done. Have you read that and your thoughts on that?
Look, my thoughts are this. I fought mail-in ballot fraud that tried to occur on Trump's second election, where they tried to do the very same thing, where they were going to mail out ballots in all these liberal counties where literally 12, 13 million mail-in ballots would have gone out with no verification, no way to prove who mailed them in. And we stopped it. We had to have 12 different lawsuits and a bunch of liberal judges trying to override state law. And in other states where they did not stop it, like Georgia and Arizona and Michigan and Wisconsin, the elections turned out differently because you had one big county in each place that could count mail-in ballots to get to the number they needed to win. There's no doubt in my mind that's exactly what happened.
It certainly seems that way to a lot of people. I want to talk about you for a second. Your primary is Tuesday night. John Cornyn and Wesley Hunt, your opponents in this primary. It's become the most expensive primary in the country's history. $110 million spent in campaign ads. They are really trying to save John Cornyn in your state. Tell us why you're the better option.
Well, look, most of that 110 million, I think I've spent maybe 3 million. I don't know what Wesley spent, but John Cornyn has spent over 100 million trying to save a seat that he's held since for the last 24 years. The guy has not accomplished anything. If you go back and ask voters, I've asked every meeting I've been in since April the 8th, what has John Cornyn accomplished in his 24 years? Let's give him the whole 40 years he's been in public office. No one has an answer. It's time that we had somebody that can deliver results in Texas, and he's not the guy. He's had his time. He's been there a long time. It's time for John Cornyn to go home.
All right. Ken Paxton, good to see you, sir.
Good to see you.
All right. Hillary testifies on Epstein. The details of that coming up next with Congressman James Comer, who led that interview in Chappaqua today, as Slick Willie will be testifying tomorrow. Plus, coming up in news from the left, more evidence Germany has been conquered by Islam. A ridiculous capitulation by McDonald's.
Stressed and fatigued? Brain feeling foggy? Don't have the energy you used to? It may be your liver. You must protect your body's most precious asset. Best-selling author and surgeon Dr. Russell Blaylock has developed natural solutions. His breakthrough new book, The Liver Cure, will help you boost energy, detoxify your body, clear brain fog, and reignite your metabolism. Improve your health and quality of life. Get The Liver Cure today.
The darkness of bipolar depression made me feel like life was moving on without me. Then I found a chance to let in the light.
Discover Caplyta. Unlike some medicines that only treat bipolar 1, Caplyta is proven to deliver significant symptom relief from both bipolar 1 and 2 depression. And in clinical trials, movement disorders and weight gain were not common.
Elderly dementia patients have increased risk of death or stroke. Caplyta is not approved for dementia-related psychosis. Call your doctor about new or sudden mood changes, behaviors, or suicidal thoughts right away. Antidepressants may increase these risks. Report fever, confusion, stiff muscles, which may be life-threatening, or uncontrolled muscle movements, which may be permanent. High cholesterol and weight gain may occur, as can high blood sugar, which may be fatal. Common side effects are sleepiness, dizziness, nausea, and dry mouth. These aren't all the side effects.
Ask your doctor how Caplyta can help you let in the light. Find savings at Caplyta.com.
Go ahead, crank the volume. We got you. USPS has increased daily package processing capacity by 46% in the past 5 years. And with USPS Ground Advantage, your packages stay in our secure network, dock to door, nationwide. For full visibility, near real-time tracking, affordable pricing, for peace of mind. USPS Ground Advantage.
Our deposition has concluded. It's a shame that it took 7 months to get Ms. Clinton in.
I have just finished testifying. I answered every one of their questions as fully as I could. I never met Jeffrey Epstein, never had any connection or communication with him.
All right, so it's day one of the Clintons' testimony. Bill goes tomorrow. Hillary rushing to the cameras after testifying in the House Oversight's Epstein probe in her hometown today. Hillary did not take the fifth, to her credit. She answered every question and told lawmakers that she has no information on Epstein's crimes. And as you heard her say, she doesn't even recall meeting Jeffrey Epstein. Despite Epstein's partner in crime, though, by the way, Ghislaine Maxwell being at their only daughter's wedding, which is an interesting little detail there. Hillary was asked about that tonight. She claims Maxwell was a +1. Then there's her husband's unusually close relationship with the convicted sex offender. He is expected to testify tomorrow. That should be quite interesting. The House Oversight Chairman, Congressman James Comer, joins us tonight from Chappaqua. And sir, it's good to have you on. Tell us what it was like with Hillary in the room.
Well, it was an experience, Rob. She couldn't recall many of the questions, especially with respect to the Clinton Foundation. That's why she was brought in. Obviously, there have never been pictures of her getting a massage by a young lady like her husband or pictures of her in a hot tub. But there were a lot of references by Jeffrey Epstein about how involved he was in the Clinton Global Initiative. So when we asked her many questions about that, she would just say she wasn't involved with the Clinton Global Initiative. She was was either in the Senate or she was running for president, and she just didn't have any recollection of any knowledge with Epstein's involvement in the Clinton Foundation.
Yeah, it's, you know, it tracks a little bit that, I mean, if Bill Clinton's going to hang out with Jeffrey Epstein and do what they do, you're probably not going to do that with your wife around or your wife with you. She was asked about her husband, Bill Clinton's ties to Jeffrey Epstein, by a reporter when she came out. Take a listen to this.
The chronology of the connection that he had with Epstein ended several years before anything about Epstein's criminal activities.
Saying that, you know, Bill hung out with Jeffrey Epstein, all that was before anybody knew how bad he was. Does that track chronologically?
Yeah, well, that's what she said. She said that many times. Of course, you know, but then she said we needed to, you know, do all this stuff with Trump. Well, Trump was the same way. You know, he didn't talk to Epstein again after Epstein was convicted the first time. So, you know, she said many times Epstein was a con artist because we asked, and I asked specifically, how was he able to surround himself with the most powerful people in the world, the richest and most powerful leaders in countries around the globe? And she said he was a con artist. That's exactly what Lex Wexner said. Hopefully we'll get more witnesses that will be more forthcoming. But, you know, we asked her a lot of questions. That's why we prefer the deposition form. If it had been a committee hearing, we might have asked her 50 to 75 questions. Today, we probably asked her 600 or 700 questions. So it was a very substantive interview, and a lot of times she said, you'll have to ask my husband that question. So we've got a lot of questions that she deferred to her husband for tomorrow.
She did say she said it was quite redundant. That was the reason, because she slammed you guys for not wanting to do this publicly and in the committee and do it on television the way we typically do these things. Is that the reason that you wouldn't get as far?
Look, it's going to be public. Everybody will see the video within the next 24 hours. The transcript will be released once her attorneys approve it. So for all practical purposes, it was public. And it was ironic. You know, she wanted a public hearing, and she was asked in that press conference afterwards, do you want to have a public hearing? Because I told her she's more than welcome to come in front of the Oversight Committee. She said, no, I'm finished. I've had enough of the Oversight Committee.
I'm sure she has.
So
well, let's talk
about the deposition's going to be public.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
We'll see it soon, in the next 24 hours. Talk for a second about, I mean, Bill's been on the plane. I believe Bill's been to the island. You have that confirmed? He's been to Epstein's island. I'm not sure what she said about that. She obviously believes that nothing untoward happened with her husband. What are your biggest questions for Bill Clinton tomorrow?
Well, obviously Clinton invited him to the White House 16 times while he was president. Bill Clinton flew on the plane 27 times with him post-presidency. So there are pictures of Clinton with Maxwell in an awkward setting. So there's a lot of evidence that Bill Clinton knew Maxwell and Epstein very well. He's not going to be able to plead ignorance like Secretary Clinton did today. There's hard evidence that he spent a lot of time with Jeffrey Epstein. So this deposition is going to be a lot more interesting tomorrow than the one was today.
Did you? And my final question, real quick: did you believe Hillary today?
It's hard to believe she had no involvement whatsoever in the Clinton Global Initiative, in the Clinton Foundation. She said that so many times. And, you know, in speeches and interviews she's given over the last decade, she talks about how involved she was with the Clinton Global Initiative. And that's why we deposed her, because Epstein cited many times in emails his close involvement with the Clinton Global Initiative. So I guess we're going to have to ask Bill Clinton those questions tomorrow, and we will, plus a whole lot more.
Okay. The House Oversight Chairman, Congressman James Comer, good to see you. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, big nuclear talks with Iran today. First, there was indications they went nowhere. Now maybe something different. What's happening? That's next.
A new president is sworn in. America's greatness is restored. Millions of Americans are tuning in to Newsmax. Even President Trump says Newsmax is terrific. Watch Newsmax or download our free app on your TV or phone today.
Have you ever dreamed of getting your business on TV? At GrowAds.com, we produce a high-end TV spot starting at only $950. Then we air your TV spot on major cable networks in your local area, only at GrowAds.com.
Whoa, 90% off? I have to purchase now. My phone!
That was a scam link.
Try this one. We installed PC-Matic.
PC-Matic blocks ransomware before threats can strike.
It's 100% made in America security.
Trusted by homes, businesses, governments, and now you. Stop guessing.
Start blocking.
Get PC-Matic.
Hi there, I'm Dean Heskin, President and CEO of Swiss America. Do you know which investment has outperformed almost every other asset class since the beginning of last year? And that Goldman Sachs research is now forecasting to reach further heights. That's right, it's gold. Central banks around the world continue to buy gold at record levels due to economic turmoil, foreign conflicts, and a weakening U.S. economy plagued by debt. If you're concerned how to protect yourself as our financial system weakens, our team at Swiss America has a solution. For over 40 years, we've helped people just like you purchase precious metals for home delivery and for your IRAs. Don't miss out before this next big price jump. Call or text Swiss America at the number on your screen to receive your free portfolio review and a copy of The Timeless Truth About Gold and Silver. Let us show you how easy it is to safeguard your money. Call or text Swiss America today.
I'm Arthur Lee, inventor and CEO of LifeVac, but most importantly, I'm a dad first.
Over 10 years ago, I watched my dad design and build the first LifeVac in our garage. Now, that device has saved thousands of lives.
The LifeVac saved my life in 1-2 seconds.
It's a device that saved my son's life.
A choking accident can happen anywhere. Order your LifeVac now.
Don't wait another minute. A life might depend on it. Go to lifevac.net or call 877-543-3822.
Joining us is Dr. Drew from the Wellness Company with advice for dealing with seasonal colds and flu. Doctor?
Cold and flu season is here, and every year you or a loved one gets sick. Your doctor can't see you. Waiting in a crowded urgent care is brutal. This is a particularly bad cold and flu season, and it's why doctors suggest every family needs an emergency medical kit. Your medical emergency kit is filled with essential prescriptions. It includes antibiotics like generic Z-Pak to get well faster, amoxicillin for pneumonia, strep throat, ear infections, plus prescriptions for nausea and UTIs, and even ivermectin. It's easy. Just match your symptoms to the prescription in your guidebook or call the telemedicine doctor standing by. Take your medication early and feel better faster. Having a medical emergency kit is like having an urgent care in your home. No waiting to see a doctor, no lines at the pharmacy.
Smart advice. We've shared the website and discount code below to save viewers $45. Order now and your kit will be rushed to your door. Thank you, doctor.
Welcome back. So we're watching Iran tonight. There's been a lot of chatter today about potentially something going down. It's definitely getting to that point right now. Earlier, it appeared that the negotiations with Iran in Geneva went nowhere. It appears the Iranians are not budging on uranium enrichment. It seemed like this was just kind of failing and falling apart. And you know, with that armada sitting right there off the coast of Iran, what that would likely mean next. Then later in the day, Axios reported that there had been some progress made. There's going to be further discussions next week in Vienna. But again, a lot of, dueling information comes out. You don't really know what the White House thinks, and they might be putting out things to make Iran relax, and then boom, you have no idea. The Iranian foreign minister also telling State TV it was one of the most intense and longest rounds of negotiations they've had. So that's how it's looking from their perspective. We're trying to figure out what's going to happen here. We've got an interesting guest to talk about this. Joe Rubin was the Deputy Assistant Secretary of State under Barack Obama. Now, he worked closely with Congress on Obama's Iran nuclear deal, the JCPOA. But at the same time, he also supported Trump's strikes on Iran's nuclear sites this past summer, which makes him a fascinating person to talk to in this moment. Joel, good to have you on. Where do you think we're at right now with this deal?
Yeah, look, you described it very well, which is that we don't really know. Look, Iran, I think it wants President Obama's deal back. That's what they put on the table earlier in the day. And then, President Trump rightly said, no, you have to get rid of your entire nuclear infrastructure, and you are not to be trusted with that. And so right now, I think this idea of going back to capitals and assessing is about the best that we can glean from where they are in negotiations. But really, Rob, we are on the edge right now of another war in the region. Iran is playing with fire. If it thinks it can just leg this out, it does not have unending time. And President Trump has put together an armada there outside of Iran that is daunting. It's the largest military force we put in the region since before invading Iraq. And I think Iran needs to take this seriously.
Well, you said that Iran wants the JCPOA back, the Iran nuclear deal that came under Obama back. We had Rick Grinnell on a couple nights ago, and he said effectively that your team was outmaneuvered by Iran with that deal. I know you don't like to hear that, but it is obvious why Iran would want that deal back, because that deal made them very wealthy. What's your defense of that deal all these years later?
Sure. Look, it was the best of a bad situation. That's how I would argue it. And I say that back in 2015, there really were a couple of choices. It was either have the moment we're in right now, which is another war in the region. And at that point in time, remember, we were mired in Iraq and Afghanistan. We were stretched. The American people did not want that. Or to just walk away and let Iran advance to a nuclear weapon, which was unacceptable. So we got a deal. It stopped their program, rolled it back, had more verification, oversight of it. And we had confidence that they were not advancing to a nuclear weapon. But the problem there, and I think this has been the problem for the last decade plus, is that they still have nuclear technology. They still have nuclear know-how, and they don't want to give it up. And so when President Trump got out of the deal in 2018, he basically led us to the moment we're in right now. And we are at that precipice of a real decision on what is going to happen with that nuclear program.
Do you think that a strike should be made if they can't come to a deal? Should he wipe out this regime?
Yeah, look, there are a couple of factors at play here. First and foremost, the armada has been gathered largely in response to Iran's horrific slaughter of its own people over the last month or so. Over 30,000 civilians murdered in the streets. Up to 36,000 is what we're hearing. And that's why the president put the forces out there. But this unfinished business of the nuclear program, still hovering, still sitting there, that threatens the whole region. And we're going to hear process arguments. I do believe the president should seek congressional engagement, support. We'll have some kind of vote next week. It won't stop it necessarily, but I do think that if Iran walks away or does not give up its nuclear program, then it should face the consequences from the American military.
Interesting take from Joel Rubin from the Obama State Department. Joel, good to have you on. Thanks.
Thanks, Rob.
CNN's incredible polling disparity on the president tells a very interesting story about the media's dirty filter. That's next with Rick and Ed.
I'm Michael Savage, and I was conservative before conservative was cool. Do you realize how crazy the liberals in this country have become? I do. You want to get me started today? I'll get started. Watch Michael Savage and the Savage Nation every Sunday night.
I'm Yalmer Heinrich. I'm in the nutritional business, primarily selling plant-derived minerals. Now, after being in this business for 43 years, owning a cancer hospital in Mexico, and associating with some of the most knowledgeable nutritional people in the world, I came to this conclusion. The world is sick due to a lack of minerals in our food, which is caused by a lack of minerals in topsoil. There is an incredible and proven nutritional product on the market that can overcome this problem. It's Immuno 150. This unusual food supplement contains 70 plant-derived minerals and 80 additional nutrients. There's nothing like it. Now watch the 3 videos on our website and place your order for what may be the best food supplement in the world. Now Immuno 150 is different, it's real, it's powerful, it's helped thousands, and we believe it enjoys the highest reorder rate in the industry. Thank you and God bless.
Identity theft has become the country's most frequent crime.
I opened my account and $30,000 is missing.
$21,000 just gone.
Every 5 seconds, another American becomes a victim of identity theft. Every 5 seconds.
My accounts were being emptied, money was being transferred everywhere.
The question now isn't if your data's at risk, it's how to protect yourself once it's been exposed.
The police didn't believe me. The banking institution didn't believe me.
So what can you do to protect yourself and your family? The leader in identity theft protection is LifeLock.
Once LifeLock got involved, everything changed.
With LifeLock, if your identity is stolen, they'll step in and fix it so you don't have to, guaranteed. Our highly trained U.S.-based restoration specialists contact institutions, dispute fraudulent charges, close compromised accounts, and even procure legal support far beyond the capabilities of your bank or credit card company.
LifeLock pursued this case further than I ever would have imagined.
If you call right now, you'll get LifeLock for just $9.99 a month for your first year. All LifeLock memberships include the $1 Million Protection Package. Our members receive reimbursement for stolen funds and personal expenses, like lost wages, as well as coverage for lawyers and experts up to $3 million in total.
When the bank refused to reimburse my stolen money, the $1 Million Protection Package came through for me.
Our restoration guarantee and $1 Million Protection Package are included in all memberships with no additional fees. Plus, LifeLock now includes protection against scams.
I think it's natural to think that you can do this on your own. You can't.
Call 1-800-322-4370 and use promo code GET35 or go to lifelock.com/get35 to join today.
My heart has experienced life-changing wins, losses, and countless miles. To keep living at my speed, I trust Cunol CoQ10. CoQ10 is the #1 cardiologist-recommended supplement for heart health. Cunol, the brand I trust.
It is not, generally speaking, unruly.
The dehumanizing rhetoric of Adolf Hitler is once again alive and well.
This version of Biden is the best Biden ever.
All right, so this week, the State of the Union gave us some very compelling evidence of the media's impact on reality and also on the president's popularity. This, to me, is very interesting. Before Trump's State of the Union address on Tuesday night, CNN polling showed that just 32% of Americans said that Trump has the right priorities, indicating that the president is very much underwater on support and what he wants to do and popularity and all that. The very same pollster that night, CNN, then found that 63% of Americans had a positive reaction to Trump's speech, where he simply just said everything that he wants to do, his vision for the country, for 2 hours in front of the whole country, directly to the American people. The score doubles. It doubles the support as he receives after his messaging is filtered through the dirty lens of the American media. What the support that he gets when it's filtered through the media is what, half of what it is when he just gets out there and says it. I think that's just terribly interesting. Rick Leventhal and Ed Henry join us now to talk about this. Good to have you both here. Rick, I'll start with you. I mean, he gets 33 or 36 and then 63, depending on how his messaging is consumed by the American people. I think that tells a big story.
Well, it does, Rob, and thanks for pointing that out. I mean, it points out the hypocrisy and the nonsense that the president's been dealing with every day for, I don't know, 10 or more years. He doesn't trust the pollsters for a good reason, because, you know, they're selectively choosing the people they ask questions. They ask questions in a certain way, and the results never seem to match reality. They said he was going to lose the election, and he won. Yeah. And they said Kamala Harris was a lot closer than she was, and he beat her, too. And now they're saying only 30% think he's on the right track, and then 2/3, by CNN standards, that's probably 99%, really liked his speech and really liked the direction the country's going in. So that's the reality, and the rest of it's just kind of...
And Ed, you see it all the time, because, I mean, every day he just gets pounded by the media. Everything he does, he gets nothing but negative. Even, I mean, everybody wanted deportations. Look at what they did to deportations in this country. They turned that very negative by showing the process of deporting people, which we know can be an ugly process. But when they sit there and vilify it and they feed this beast, all of a sudden the people that voted for deportations suddenly now don't support what they voted for, because it gets twisted through this lens.
Yeah, I think you're right about the lens, but there's another way to look at the initial poll that said only 36% approve of his policies. Where have these people been living who all of a sudden they hear him for 2 hours and say, wow, I like this guy, I like this common sense agenda. Yeah, the media filters it, but I think some of these voters, Rick, where the heck are you? Like, Donald Trump doesn't hide what he's for. He's been consistent on tariffs, on securing the border, you know, on growing this economy and bringing down inflation. There's no mystery to this agenda. So nobody should have had a revelation a couple of nights ago saying, wow, this is an interesting agenda. He's against men in women's locker rooms. He wants to lock up illegal. I mean, the guy he's the most open guy in the world.
Yeah.
He's been talking about, where you been?
And you know what it
honestly,
really, go ahead. Finish up. Go ahead.
No, I think that once everyone hears more of this between now and November, I don't buy that they're going to lose the midterms. It's just, this is the common sense agenda people love.
It certainly does explain, I think, why he talks so much. Because I think he understands, I got to get it straight to the people. I can't let it go through those filters. I need to get on TV. It also explains why MSNBC so often doesn't take him when he's talking. Because if those numbers ring true, why would you let him talk directly to people if it resonates with them? All right, I got to move on to another one here before I let you go. Team USA, the men's hockey team, an incredible week, right? They get the immediate stardom of winning gold. The State of the Union, they have this huge moment here. They also got the chance to visit the White House, the president putting the gold medal around his neck for the picture. But because of that visit, and because of this harmless joke that Trump made when he's talking to the boys about having to invite the girls too, or else he'd be impeached, which everybody understands is just a harmless joke. The media, I mean, social media, everybody has exploded. The negative headlines are everywhere about the U.S. men's team. New York Times has said that they lost the room by laughing at Trump's joke. Rick, I think that it's so outrageous to go after. These are young kids, that had a moment on the phone with the president. He tells a joke. You're going to excoriate them for laughing at a harmless joke as if they're supposed to be so perfect that they know in any moment what they can and can't laugh at. They're supposed to be so virtuous that they would refuse that joke from the president of the United States on the phone.
Oh, gosh, it wasn't PC what they said in the locker room after winning a gold medal and celebrating and having the president on the phone. Of course they're going to laugh. And my understanding is the women's team turned down the invitation. They probably would have turned it down under any circumstances. I'm just projecting here. I don't know that for a fact. But don't blame the president for a harmless joke. Don't hold it against him for inviting the men's winners to the White House, and it's one of those things that all presidents do, and it's a glorious thing. It's a wonderful tribute to the incredible win that they enjoyed. And those guys deserve all the accolades they can get. They're American heroes in many people's eyes. Good for them. And good for the president. And you know what? He is transparent. He is out front. He is out there all the time, being honest with the people and saying what he actually thinks, which is so different from so many other politicians. No wonder they don't like him, because he's real.
And Ed, real quick before I let you go, the Canadian publication, the Globe and Mail, said the State of the Union was a zoo and Team USA, the monkeys. You think they're a little jealous up north?
They're just all bitter about Trump winning, and he's not tired of winning, as he said in the State of the Union. And you know what? There's another way to look at this. The liberal media has finally figured out, once again, there's two genders. Because for a long time, they told us there's like 96 genders or 65 of them. And now they're doing all these stories in Canada and everywhere saying, men's team, women's team, two genders. Wow. When it fits their narrative, there's only two.
Exactly. I think Canadians are just pissed off because it's going to be cold till June, and we're about to hit spring down here. I think that's part of it. I don't know how they live up there. Good to see you guys. Rick and Ed, thanks so much.
Good to see you.
New Jersey's new governor trying to feed off Jack Hughes' gold medal hysteria. It did not go well. Up in News from the Left next.
What's gold is new again. Pardon the pun. But considering gold has been used as currency since around 550 BC, it has been on fire the past year. I'm here with Daniel Boston, the founder of Preserve Gold. Why is gold so stable and such a good investment for many people?
Take the central bank, for example, the Federal Reserve. They print money out of thin air, and then they take that printed money to go buy hard assets like gold to protect themselves against the very risks that they're creating. So I always tell people, don't do what the big players are telling you to do. Do what they're doing themselves.
Yeah, watch what they're doing.
That's correct.
Okay. If people are interested in investing with Preserve Gold, how do they get started?
Text Newsmax to 50505 to get your free information and up to $15,000 in free gold and silver with a qualified purchase. That's right. Text Newsmax to 50505.
All right. No way you can miss it.
When my mother heard about Pure Talk's latest offer, she said, Michael, that's a third of what I'm paying my current provider. How's that even possible? I said, Ma, your current provider spent $12 billion last year on advertising and promotion. Pure Talk hired me to make a few commercials on my iPhone. That's why you can get unlimited talk and text with plenty of data on a crazy fast 5G network for just $25 a month. You're welcome. Pure Talk, everything you need, nothing you don't.
Go ahead, crank the volume. We got you. USPS has increased daily package processing capacity by 46% in the past 5 years. And with USPS Ground Advantage, your packages stay in our secure network, dock to door, nationwide. For full visibility, near real-time tracking, affordable pricing, for peace of mind. USPS Ground Advantage.
Joining us is Dr. Drew from the Wellness Company with advice for dealing with seasonal colds and flu. Doctor?
Cold and flu season is here, and every year you or a loved one gets sick. Your doctor can't see you. Waiting in a crowded urgent care is brutal. This is a particularly bad cold and flu season, and it's why doctors suggest every family needs an emergency medical kit. Your medical emergency kit is filled with essential prescriptions. It includes antibiotics like generic Z-Pak to get well faster, amoxicillin for pneumonia, strep throat, ear infections, plus prescriptions for nausea and UTIs, and even ivermectin. It's easy. Just match your symptoms to the prescription in your guidebook or call the telemedicine doctor standing by. Take your medication early and feel better faster. Having a medical emergency kit is like having an urgent care in your home. No waiting to see a doctor, no lines at the pharmacy.
Smart advice. We've shared the website and discount code below to save viewers $45. Order now and your kit will be rushed to your door. Thank you, doctor.
Welcome back. Time now for news from the left. It's a story that fits right in for the state of California. Renee Campos, a registered child sex offender convicted for child sex abuse porn, the possession of it, announcing a run for the District 7 seat on the Fresno City Council. Man, are they getting bold. Pleading with voters to overlook his dark past and vote for him. Take a look.
Going into this, I am putting my life out there. I've been given the chance to rehabilitate through the courts and back into the system. So I say, let's choose somebody outside the box, somebody who knows the system from inside out. Because me, I've experienced the laws that we are trying to reform right now.
Oh, we're trying to reform those laws? What, we make it easier on you? Is that what you're trying to do? People like that used to hide in their house for the rest of their lives once convicted with this, but boy, California. California Democrats have been working vigorously to destigmatize this thing behind me, even attempting to lower the penalties. Now we have a pedophile running for public office, and yet we hear no big screams for him to drop out. Where's Gavin Newsom? Where's Kamala Harris? Welcome to California, where pedos are running for office and are proud to say it and want to reform the laws that put them in jail. Gotta love it. Next up, Germany, fully conquered by Islam, it would appear. A ridiculous capitulation by McDonald's in Europe. The fast food chain in Germany banning all depictions of food in daytime advertising so as not to tempt Muslims during the month of Ramadan, when they have to fast all day long, from sunup to sundown. The billboards, quote, were programmed so that during daylight fasting hours, they display McDonald's packaging, the red and yellow containers, all the good stuff, the burger box, everything completely empty, no food at all. Once the sun sets, the same packaging fills up in real time, revealing fries and burgers at the exact moment that Muslims are allowed to break their daily fast. Liberal Europe falling all over itself to appease the invaders that are decimating their culture and driving crime rates through the roof. That, my friends, is what you call conquered. Next up, George Conway running for Congress here in New York, demanding that Congress impeach Donald Trump as a moral obligation.
But at the end of the day, with what's going on here and now, it's no longer a question of political calculus. It's a moral and legal and constitutional obligation of Congress to do this. I think it would be a violation of the oath of office for a member of Congress not to push for impeachment when it is possible.
Impeach for what? What is the, give us one possible thing. He never answers that question. He just says we need to remove him from office. George Conway fighting for his life, trying to become a congressman here in New York. Good luck. Next up, a new Marist poll shows 1 in 3 New Yorkers intend to flee this state within the next 5 years. The driving factors, 40% say the cost of living. Yeah. 21% say the quality of life. I actually like it here, but it could be better, I guess. 15% say taxes. Yeah. 10% say because of politics. Hell yeah. So what's the solution from our governor and mayor? Well, they're going to raise taxes further and punish people living here even more. Facing those kind of numbers, they want to throw more taxes on it. Last year, Hochul waited till after the election to impose this congestion tax that charges us $9 just for the privilege of driving in Manhattan, which we already pay for in taxes. Now we're hearing that she's going to wait again until after this next election to impose even more taxes. That is the most vile thing. I'm going to wait till after the election, and then I'm going to punch you right in the face. Thanks, Kathy. And finally, a rough night for New Jersey's new governor.
New Jersey Governor Mikey Sherrill and First Gentleman Jason Henry. Local family is here to announce that the New Jersey Devils organization is making an 80
must suck to know that a whole stadium hates you. The governor, Mikey Sherrill, trying to steal some of Jack Hughes' energy at the New Jersey Devils game this week. The hero for the men's gold medal hockey team was there alongside his teammate, who he brought out onto the ice. They came out together, even though they're on opposing teams in that game, both honored before the game. Hughes, of course, scoring the game-winning score there in overtime against Canada to give the Americans their first gold medal since 1980. A big honor for them. A lot of cheers. That's what cheers sound like, and you got to hear what boos sound like, too. So now you know. It all kind of sounds weird, but that's how it sounds in a stadium, one and the other. All right, should Penn Station be called Trump Station? We went to find out. Next.
Have you ever dreamed of getting your business on TV? At GrowAds.com, we produce a high-end TV spot starting at only $950. Then we air your TV spot on major cable networks in your local area, only at GrowAds.com.
Balance of Nature is a wonderful product. Whether you're a teenager or whether you're older, you don't have to be in your 70s to take the product. I recommend it to all of my friends. I'm very grateful that I started on Balance of Nature.
Start your journey with Balance of Nature supplements today. Go to balanceofnature.com and subscribe and save with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. That's 1-800-2468-751. Don't wait. Now's the time to take action.
The crisis inside Ukraine has reached a catastrophic level, with the elderly Jews pushed to the very limit.
Go inside. She's freezing cold. There's no electricity, no heat, no water. Winter is now a weapon of war, used against the elderly, the mothers, and the young children.
They've been lined up here for hours. These are precious people who are hungry. And they have nothing. If someone doesn't do something soon, a humanitarian disaster is coming. So many Jewish people who are just waiting for someone to care enough to pick up the phone.
Fears are growing that without an emergency, full-scale response, thousands will die this winter.
The International Fellowship of Christians and Jews needs your $25 gift now to help rush a winter survival food box of emergency food for elderly Jews and families in Ukraine. Today, there's a special opportunity to double your gift's impact, thanks to generous fellowship partners. Call now and your gift's impact will be doubled.
They felt the shaking of missiles. These are people who have already endured so much suffering and disaster, taking out power, taking out water, simple water to drink. We're talking about the difference between life or death. Christian, Jew, standing shoulder to shoulder, saying, we're here to heal, we're here to help.
Your gift of only $25 helps rush a winter survival food box filled with life-saving emergency food for elderly Jews and families in Ukraine. Thanks to a special matching challenge, if you call now, your gift's impact will be doubled. Time is critical. Please give now.
You're careful about what you bring home when shopping, especially when it comes to feeding your family. Shouldn't your investments work the same way? At Timothy Plan, we offer a wide selection of mutual funds and ETFs that can help you allocate assets without compromising your values. From technology to healthcare, energy to real estate, our funds are not only diverse but uncompromising to your values. Timothy Plan funds are filtered to avoid companies involved in abortion, pornography, human trafficking, and other harmful agendas. What you invest in should reflect what you stand for. Are your investments bearing good fruit? What's in your portfolio? Contact your financial advisor today to find out, or contact Timothy Plan directly at 1-800-TIM-PLAN to discover more. Before investing, carefully consider the fund's investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses of the investment company. This and other important information can be found in the fund's prospectus. To obtain a copy, visit timothyplan.com or call 800-846-7526. Read each prospectus carefully before investing. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
Finally tonight, the Gateway Tunnel project, a massive rail infrastructure overhaul along the Northeast Corridor between Newark, New Jersey and Penn Station in New York. Trump and Schumer battling over the project. Media reports suggesting that Trump told Dems he would grant the $16 billion in federal funding if they change the name of Penn Station in New York to Trump Station. When our own Mike Carter brought that up to President Trump, he said Chuck Schumer was the one who suggested that name change. Funny either way. Earlier today, our producer Brent went to Penn Station to ask people what they thought about Trump Station.
I'm here at the iconic Penn Station in New York City, but word on the street is that Penn Station could soon be changing its name to Trump Station. Trump Station.
Trump Station?
Trump Station.
Trump Station.
Should the name of Penn Station change to Trump Station?
Yeah. Trump Station.
Changing Penn Station to Trump Station.
Yes, I like it.
You would like if they changed the name?
Wouldn't bother me.
What do we think about if the name changed to Trump Station?
Oh, yeah, I don't know about that one.
Absolutely not.
Should it be changed to Trump Station?
No.
Trump Station. So you're for it?
Absolutely.
Why not? President Trump, when he was asked by Newsmax, he said that it was Chuck Schumer's idea.
Chuck Schumer suggested that to me about changing the name of Penn Station to Trump Station.
President Trump said it was Chuck Schumer's idea.
Huh? Probably. No doubt.
Maybe he would make Penn Station great again. He can make Penn Station great again.
Yes.
Greater than ever before.
It's your first time here?
Yeah.
Maybe the next time you'll come to Trump Station.
Maybe.
What about the big, beautiful Trump Station?
That doesn't exist.
Make America great again.
Make Penn Station great again.
Well, there you go. He would definitely do that.
This is going to be, I mean, the idea, this is a good one. Trump Station here in New York, I cannot even fathom the reaction from most of the people that live in this city that are so liberal, that hate the president so much. If you put that up on the side of that thing, they might burn it down. Trump Station, let us know your thoughts. Send us a tweet. Finnerty is up next, and we'll see you back here tomorrow night.